Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Fluent English with Radio. Today, I want to challenge something that almost everyone believes about success, relationships, and personal power. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you announced a goal on social media? When did you last share your relationship problems, your income, or your next big plan with friends? If you're like most people, you probably do this regularly because you've been taught that sharing is caring, that openness builds connections, and that transparency shows strength. Here's the brutal truth. Every time you overshare, you're actually weakening your position in life. You're giving away power that you don't even realize you have. When you tell everyone about your new fitness goal, your brain releases dopamine, giving you a false sense of accomplishment before you've even started. When you complain about your relationship online, you're inviting judgment from people who don't understand your situation. When you reveal your income, you attract jealousy or people who see you as an opportunity to exploit. And what separates the truly powerful from everyone else is the most successful people throughout history have understood something that the average person doesn't. True power comes not from being known, but from knowing when to stay silent. Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's intelligence. It's control. Today, I'm going to teach you 12 important lessons on how staying quiet can make you more powerful. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the phrase "knowledge is power" is incomplete. The full truth is, the right knowledge, shared with the right people at the right time, is power. Everything else is just noise that weakens your position. 1. Stop announcing your goals. Let's start with perhaps the most damaging habit that destroys people's chances of success: announcing their goals before achieving them. This seems counterintuitive because we're often told that public accountability helps us achieve more. But science tells a different story. When you tell people about your plans to start a business, lose weight, or learn a new skill, your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical that's released when you actually accomplish something. This creates what psychologists call social reality. Your brain believes that talking about the goal is equivalent to making progress toward it. The result? Your motivation to actually do the work decreases dramatically. Dr. Peter Gallwitzer from New York University conducted groundbreaking research on this phenomenon. He gave participants different tasks and asked some groups to announce their intentions while others kept them private. Consistently, the groups who kept their goals secret performed significantly better than those who shared them publicly. When you announce your goals, you invite several complications that can sabotage your progress. First, you invite skepticism and negativity from people who have given up on their own dreams. These people will subtly discourage you, often disguised as realistic advice. They project their own limitations onto your ambitions. Second, you create external pressure that can backfire spectacularly. Instead of focusing on the process, you become obsessed with meeting the expectations you've created. This pressure often leads to anxiety, rushed decisions, and ultimately abandoning the goal entirely. Third, you give potential competitors valuable insights into your strategy. If you're starting a business, announcing your plans early gives others the opportunity to copy your ideas, reach your target market first, or actively sabotage your efforts. The most successful entrepreneurs understand that the period of invisible progress is sacred. Jeff Bezos didn't announce Amazon while it was just an idea. Steve Jobs didn't reveal Apple products until they were ready for market. They worked in silence for months or years before revealing their projects. When you're working toward something privately, every small step forward feels meaningful because you're the only judge of your progress. But when you've announced your goal publicly, every setback feels magnified because you imagine others watching and judging. Here's what you should do instead. Keep your goals completely secret until they're 100% completed. The most satisfying moment isn't when you announce your goal. It's when you can casually mention your success, leaving others wondering how you accomplished something significant while they were busy talking about unrealized plans. So, let your results speak for themselves. 2. Conceal your next move. In chess, telegraph your next move and you lose the game. In life, the principle is exactly the same, yet most people broadcast their strategies like they're running publicity campaigns for their own lives. The element of surprise is one of the most powerful tools you can wield in any competitive situation, whether you're negotiating a salary, changing careers, or making significant life decisions. When others can predict your moves, they can prepare counter strategies, block your path, or position themselves to benefit from your efforts. Consider this scenario. You're planning to ask for a promotion at work. If you spend weeks telling colleagues about your intentions, word will inevitably reach your manager before you do. This gives them enormous advantages. Time to prepare reasons to deny your request, identify alternative candidates, or even begin restructuring to make your desired position unnecessary. Contrast this with the employee who quietly excels, documents their achievements, researches market salaries, and then presents their case suddenly and comprehensively. The manager is caught off guard in the best possible way. They haven't had time to build mental barriers or prepare counterarguments. They're forced to respond to the employee's actual value rather than preconceived notions. This principle extends beyond career moves. In business negotiations, the party that reveals their timeline, budget constraints, or decision-making criteria first usually loses. In relationships, people who constantly announce their decisions invite unnecessary opinions that can damage perfectly healthy situations. But concealing your moves isn't just about competitive advantage. It's about protecting your plans during their most vulnerable development stage. By keeping your plans private, you protect them from dream killers who specialize in finding problems with other people's ambitions. Every innovative idea sounds crazy to someone who lacks vision. Every bold decision appears risky to people who have chosen safety over growth. When someone asks about your future plans, master the art of the strategic non-answer. Responses like, "I'm exploring several interesting options," "I'm focused on excelling in my current situation," or "I prefer to let my actions speak," give you mystery and flexibility while satisfying curiosity without revealing strategy. Remember, not every question deserves a complete answer, and not every person deserves access to your thinking. Your plans are intellectual property. Protect them like the valuable assets they are. 3. Hide your income and assets. Money conversations are among the most dangerous territory you can enter. Yet people regularly share financial information that would make experienced negotiators cringe. Whether you make little or much, discussing income and assets creates problems that far outweigh any temporary satisfaction from sharing. Human beings are naturally competitive, and money is the most common measuring stick for social status. When you reveal your income, you force everyone who hears it to compare their financial situation to yours. This creates only two outcomes: envy or pity. Neither emotion strengthens relationships or improves your social position. If you make more than people around you, sharing this triggers what psychologists call comparison threat. People will either resent your success, assume you don't deserve it, or see you as a resource to exploit rather than respect. Family gatherings become awkward when relatives know you make significantly more. Friendships suffer when people expect you to pay for everything or feel uncomfortable splitting bills equally. If you make less than peers, revealing this can damage your credibility and self-confidence. People may unconsciously devalue your opinions, exclude you from activities, or treat you with condescending sympathy that's equally damaging. Beyond social dynamics, financial information is valuable to people with bad intentions. Criminals use income information to target victims. Opportunistic people use it to justify asking for loans they may never repay. Even well-meaning people might share your situation with others, spreading information you intended to keep private. The concept of stealth wealth has become popular among truly wealthy individuals who understand that displaying wealth creates more problems than solutions. They drive modest cars, wear understated clothing, and live in nice but not ostentatious homes. This isn't because they can't afford luxury. They understand that visible wealth makes you a target, while invisible wealth gives you options. Warren Buffett, one of the richest people in the world, still lives in the house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. He drives his own car, eats at McDonald's, and dresses simply. This isn't because he's cheap. He understands that projecting wealth attracts wrong attention and relationships. When people ask about salary, mortgage, or investments, you have every right to keep that private. Responses like, "I prefer not to discuss finances," "I'm comfortable with my situation," or simply, "That's personal," are completely acceptable. Practice financial discretion in all forms. Don't flash expensive purchases on social media. Don't complain about money problems to people who can't help solve them. Don't discuss investment portfolios at dinner parties. Your financial life is your business, and keeping it that way protects both security and relationships. 4. Keep your love life private. Perhaps nothing destroys relationships faster than involving too many outside opinions, yet social media has turned intimate relationships into public entertainment. Every couple's fight, romantic gesture, and relationship milestone becomes content for an audience that has no stake in the relationship's success. When you broadcast your relationship online or discuss intimate details with friends and family, you're inviting a committee of people to have opinions about your private life. These people don't see the full context, don't understand communication nuances, and often project their own relationship experiences onto your situation. Consider what happens when you post about a fight with your partner on social media. Friends and family start taking sides, offering advice based on incomplete information and creating narratives about your relationship that may not reflect reality. These posts become permanent records that people remember long after you've resolved the issue. The most successful relationships are characterized by what relationship experts call protective boundaries. These invisible walls keep outside interference from damaging the relationship's foundation. When couples consistently present a united front and resolve conflicts privately, they build trust and intimacy that can't be shaken by external pressure. Think about the couples you know who seem happiest and most stable. They're likely the ones who don't air their relationship drama publicly. They don't use friends as relationship counselors. Don't passive-aggressively post about each other online, and handle conflicts like mature adults behind closed doors. This doesn't mean you should never seek advice when having relationship problems, but there's a crucial difference between seeking guidance from one trusted friend or professional counselor and turning your relationship into a public soap opera that everyone feels entitled to comment on. Social media has made this problem exponentially worse. The pressure to present a perfect relationship online leads to performative behavior that can damage authentic connection between partners. When you're more focused on how your relationship looks to others than how it feels to you, you've lost sight of what matters most. The strongest couples operate like a closed circle. They handle their business privately, present themselves as a team to the outside world, and protect their relationship from people who don't have their best interests at heart. This isn't about being secretive. It's about recognizing that intimate relationships require privacy to flourish. 5. Stop dumping your emotions on others. We live in a culture that has confused emotional expression with emotional maturity, creating people who believe sharing every feeling is healthy and that processing emotions always requires an audience. This misunderstanding has created an epidemic of emotional dumping that damages both relationships and personal development. When you constantly share negative emotions like complaints, frustrations, fears, and anger with friends, family, and colleagues, you create several serious problems. First, you develop what psychologists call a victim identity. Your brain starts defining you as someone perpetually struggling, always facing problems, consistently needing external support. This identity becomes self-reinforcing because you unconsciously seek situations that confirm your victim status. Over time, people stop seeing you as someone they enjoy being around. They start expecting emotional heaviness whenever they talk to you. Slowly, they pull away. What begins as asking for support ends up pushing people away because most people are naturally drawn to those who lift their energy, not those who drain it. Second, every time you share detailed information about emotional triggers, insecurities, and vulnerabilities, you're creating a user manual for anyone wanting to manipulate you. While most people won't deliberately use this against you, some absolutely will. Even well-meaning people might unconsciously treat you differently when they know what upsets you or triggers your anxiety. Third, consistent emotional dumping creates unhealthy expectations that others should manage your emotional state. This enormous burden often leads to people feeling exhausted and resentful. They feel responsible for fixing your problems, managing your moods, and providing constant reassurance. The most emotionally mature individuals understand the difference between seeking appropriate support and emotional dumping. They process feelings privately first through journaling, meditation, exercise, or personal reflection. Only after internal work do they selectively share with trusted individuals who have capacity and willingness to provide meaningful support. There's a transformative technique called the 24-hour rule. When you feel urgent need to share negative emotions, first write them down exhaustively. Describe exactly how you feel, why you feel that way, what triggered these emotions. Then wait 24 hours before deciding whether to share these feelings. This waiting period is magical. Often, intense emotions fade during those 24 hours, leaving you with clearer, more rational perspective. Sometimes you'll realize what felt like major crisis was actually minor inconvenience that emotions magnified. Other times you'll recognize the real issue isn't what you initially thought, allowing you to address actual problems rather than just venting about symptoms. Consider the difference between saying, "I'm having a challenging time with a work situation and would value your perspective," versus launching into detailed complaints about how terrible your boss is. The first approach invites constructive dialogue and positions you as someone taking responsibility for finding solutions. The second creates expectations that others should absorb your negative emotions and validate your victim narrative. People are drawn to individuals who can handle adversity with grace and resilience. This doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect, but it does mean taking primary responsibility for your emotional state and not expecting others to constantly provide sympathy or solutions for problems that are ultimately yours to solve. 6. Kill the need for external validation. One of the most insidious ways we give away power is by constantly seeking approval and validation from others. Every time you change behavior based on someone else's opinion or alter plans because you're worried about what people will think, you're giving them control over your life decisions. The need for validation turns you into a performer rather than an authentic individual living according to your own values and vision. You start making decisions based on what will impress others rather than what aligns with your goals and happiness. This is exhausting and leads to a life that feels hollow because it's not truly yours. Think about how much energy you waste seeking approval, posting photos and waiting for likes, telling stories and gauging reactions, making choices based on what others expect rather than what you want. This constant external focus keeps you from developing the internal compass that successful people rely on to navigate complex decisions. The most powerful individuals have developed what psychologists call internal locus of control. They evaluate their own performance, celebrate their own wins, and make decisions based on their own judgment rather than constantly seeking external feedback and approval. This doesn't mean ignoring all advice. That would be foolish. But there's a crucial difference between selectively seeking input from people whose judgment you trust and constantly needing validation from everyone around you. The former is strategic, the latter is weakness. Start developing your internal validation system by keeping a win log. Each day, write down 3 things you accomplished, no matter how small. These might be professional achievements, personal growth moments, kind acts, or simply handling a difficult situation well. You're training yourself to notice and acknowledge your own progress without waiting for others to recognize it. When you accomplish something significant, celebrate privately before sharing with others. Take a moment to acknowledge your hard work, feel proud of your achievement, and internalize the satisfaction of success. Only after you've fully experienced your own pride should you consider sharing the achievement. This creates a fundamental shift in your relationship with success and failure. Instead of your emotional state depending on external reactions, you develop a stable internal foundation that can't be shaken by other people's opinions or judgments. People can sense when someone is desperately seeking validation, and it's not attractive. Conversely, individuals who seem secure and self-possessed naturally draw others toward them. When you don't need constant approval, people value your opinion more because they know you're not just telling them what they want to hear. 7. Weaponize your silence in conflicts. Most people believe that winning an argument means having the last word, making the best points, or speaking most passionately. But experienced negotiators, lawyers, and diplomats understand that silence is often the most powerful tool in any conflict situation. When someone is attacking you verbally, your natural instinct is to defend yourself immediately. This is exactly what they're counting on. By forcing you into reactive mode, they control the conversation's direction and emotional temperature. But when you respond with strategic silence, you completely disrupt their approach and regain control. Here's why silence is so powerful in conflicts. It creates psychological pressure that most people can't tolerate. When you don't respond immediately to an accusation or criticism, the person attacking you starts to feel uncertain about their position. They often continue talking to fill the uncomfortable silence, and in doing so, frequently reveal their true motivations or weaken their argument. Silence also gives you time to think strategically rather than emotionally. Instead of blurting out the first defensive response that comes to mind, you can consider the best way to respond, or whether responding at all serves your interests. Professional interrogators use silence as one of their most effective techniques. After asking a difficult question, they simply wait. The natural human tendency is to fill silence with words, and people often reveal far more than they intended simply because they can't tolerate the quiet tension. You can apply this same principle in workplace conflicts, family disagreements, and any situation where someone is trying to manipulate or control you through aggressive communication. When someone makes an unreasonable demand or false accusation, try this. Look them directly in the eye. Remain completely silent for 3 seconds, then respond calmly and briefly. Those 3 seconds accomplish several things. They demonstrate that you're not reactive or easily manipulated. They give you time to choose your response rather than reacting emotionally, and they often cause the other person to feel uncertain and defensive, shifting the power dynamic in your favor. This technique is particularly effective with bullies and manipulators who rely on emotional reactions to maintain control. When you don't give them the reaction they're seeking, they lose their primary weapon and often reveal themselves as less formidable than they initially appeared. But strategic silence isn't just about conflict, it's about communication mastery. In negotiations, the person who speaks first after a price is mentioned typically loses. In job interviews, allowing comfortable silence after answering a question often prompts the interviewer to provide additional information. Practice this skill in low-stakes situations first. When someone asks a question that deserves consideration, pause before answering. When someone tells you surprising news, resist the urge to fill the air with immediate commentary. 8. Stop explaining your life choices. One of the clearest signs of insecurity is constantly explaining and justifying your life choices to people who haven't asked for explanations and have no authority over your decisions. When you feel compelled to explain why you chose your career, living situation, relationship status, or lifestyle preferences, you're unconsciously seeking permission for your own life. This habit is more damaging than most people realize because it sends a clear message that you doubt your own judgment and need external validation to feel confident about your decisions. It also invites unwanted opinions and criticism from people who have no stake in your success or happiness. Consider the difference between these two responses. 1. Well, I decided to move to this city because the job market is better here and the cost of living is lower, and my family is nearby, and I've always liked the climate. And 2. It felt like the right decision for me. The first response invites debate and criticism. The second response is complete and confident, leaving little room for argument or unsolicited advice. You're not required to justify your choices to anyone except yourself and perhaps those who are directly affected by your decisions. This principle extends to all areas of life. You don't owe explanations for your career choices, relationship decisions, financial priorities, social preferences, or personal boundaries. When you constantly explain yourself, you diminish your authority over your own life and invite interference from people who should have no say in your decisions. The most successful people learn to say no without elaborate explanations. Instead of saying, "I can't go to the party because I have to work early tomorrow and I've been really tired lately," they simply say, "I won't be able to make it." This isn't about being rude or dismissive. It's about recognizing that your decisions are yours to make, and most situations don't require detailed justifications. When you give lengthy explanations for simple decisions, you often create opportunities for others to poke holes in your reasoning or pressure you to change your mind. Practice this by starting with small decisions. When someone invites you to something you don't want to attend, simply decline politely without providing detailed explanation. When someone questions your preferences or choices, respond with confidence rather than defensiveness. When you stop over-explaining your choices, people start respecting your decisions more, not less. They recognize that you're someone who thinks things through and acts with intention. 9. Master the art of observation. In our world of constant communication and social media oversharing, the ability to observe quietly has become a rare and powerful skill. While others are talking, posting, and performing, you can be learning, analyzing, and gathering the information that gives you strategic advantages in every aspect of life. Human beings reveal tremendous amounts of information about themselves when they think no one is paying attention. Their body language, facial expressions, word choices, and behavioral patterns tell stories that their conscious minds might prefer to keep hidden. But you can only gather this intelligence when you're listening and watching rather than talking. Think about the most successful business leaders, negotiators, and social influencers you know. What they all have in common is an exceptional ability to read people and situations. They can sense when someone is lying, when a deal is about to fall through, when a colleague is planning to quit, or when a relationship is stronger or weaker than it appears on the surface. This skill isn't magic or intuition. It's developed through careful observation and pattern recognition. When you're not busy trying to impress others with your words, you can focus on understanding the dynamics of every situation you encounter. In professional settings, observation skills give you enormous advantages. You can identify which colleagues have real influence versus those who just have impressive titles. You can sense when your boss is under pressure and time your requests accordingly. You can recognize when someone is interested in your proposal before they've made their decision obvious. In social situations, observation helps you understand relationship dynamics, identify potential allies and threats, and position yourself strategically within any group. You learn who the real decision makers are, who has hidden agendas, and who can be trusted with sensitive information. But observation isn't just about gathering information about others. It's also about understanding environments and situations. You can sense when a meeting is going badly before anyone says so. You can feel when a social gathering is about to shift or when someone is about to make an important announcement. To develop this skill, challenge yourself to spend 80% of your time in group settings, observing, and only 20% talking. Pay attention to who speaks first, who others look to for approval, who seems uncomfortable with the topic being discussed, and who is genuinely engaged versus just going through the motions. Watch for micro-expressions, the brief, involuntary facial expressions that reveal true emotions before people can control their reactions. Notice body language incongruence when someone's words don't match their physical posture. Observe speech patterns, vocal tone changes, and the topics that make people animated versus those that make them shut down. The information you gather through careful observation gives you the ability to communicate more effectively, build stronger relationships, avoid potential problems, and identify opportunities that others miss because they're too busy talking to notice what's really happening around them. 10. Filter your circle with silence. One of the most valuable uses of strategic silence is as a filtering mechanism for your relationships. When you stop being the person who always initiates contact, always shares first, and always carries conversations, you discover who genuinely values your presence versus who was simply enjoying your attention. This filtering process can be uncomfortable because it forces you to confront difficult truths about your relationships. You might discover that some people you considered close friends rarely reach out when you're not driving the interaction. You might realize that certain family members only contact you when they need something. You might find that some colleagues are friendly when you're initiating conversations, but seem indifferent when you step back. But this information is incredibly valuable because it helps you invest your time and energy in relationships that are mutually beneficial rather than one-sided. When you know who genuinely cares about maintaining a relationship with you, you can focus on deepening those connections while letting superficial ones fade naturally. The experiment is simple. For 2 weeks, stop initiating contact with people in your social circle. Don't send the first text, make the first call, or suggest the first get-together. Instead, respond warmly when others reach out, but let them take the lead in maintaining contact. The results are often surprising and sometimes painful, but always illuminating. People who truly value your relationship will continue to reach out because they genuinely enjoy your company. Those who were primarily benefiting from your attention will gradually fade from regular contact, revealing the one-sided nature of those relationships. This doesn't mean you should become passive or antisocial. Once you've identified people who truly value your presence, you can return to being proactive in those relationships. But you'll do so with clear knowledge of which relationships are worth your investment. Some people will notice your change in communication pattern and may ask about it. This gives you opportunity to be honest about wanting to focus on mutual relationships rather than always being the one to initiate contact. True friends will understand and appreciate your honesty. The filtering process also extends to new relationships. When you're not constantly trying to impress others or maintain contact with everyone you meet, you can be more selective about who earns your time and attention. This selectivity naturally attracts higher quality relationships because people respect those who have standards and boundaries. Remember, your time and energy are finite resources. Using silence as a filter helps ensure that you're investing these precious resources in relationships that contribute positively to your life rather than depleting you. 11. Control your family drama. Family relationships can be among the most challenging to navigate because they come with built-in history, expectations, and emotional complexity. However, sharing family conflicts with outsiders is one of the fastest ways to damage both your family relationships and your reputation. When you complain about family members to friends, colleagues, or on social media, you're asking people to take sides in conflicts they don't understand. This puts listeners in uncomfortable positions and often creates more problems than it solves. Even worse, you're betraying the trust and loyalty that family relationships are built on, regardless of how frustrated you might be. Consider what happens when you tell friends about a fight with your spouse or partner. These friends only hear your side of the story and naturally want to support you by agreeing that you're right. But relationships are complex, and rarely is one person entirely right or wrong. When your friends develop negative opinions about your partner based on your complaints, it damages their ability to have genuine relationships with them in the future. The same principle applies to conflicts with parents, siblings, or other family members. When you share these conflicts with outsiders, you're inviting judgment of your family by people who don't understand the full context or history that has shaped these dynamics. This doesn't mean you should never seek support when dealing with difficult family situations. But there's a significant difference between seeking guidance from a professional counselor and turning family conflicts into entertainment for friends and acquaintances. Professional counselors are bound by confidentiality and trained to help you work through family issues constructively. They provide objective perspectives and practical strategies without taking sides or developing personal opinions about your family members. But sharing family drama in casual conversations or on social media serves no constructive purpose. It doesn't solve underlying issues, often makes relationships worse, and damages your reputation as someone who can be trusted with sensitive information. People notice when you regularly complain about family members, and they naturally wonder what you say about them when they're not around. If you can't maintain loyalty with your own family, why should others trust you with their personal information? The strongest families present a united front to the outside world, even when dealing with internal conflicts. They handle disagreements privately and protect each other's dignity in public settings. When people try to involve you in gossip about other families or ask intrusive questions about your family relationships, redirect the conversation or simply state that you prefer to keep family matters private. 12. Being mysterious. In our age of constant social media updates and oversharing, mystery has become an incredibly rare and therefore valuable quality. When everyone else is broadcasting every meal, every thought, every activity, and every emotion, the person who maintains some privacy and unpredictability naturally stands out as more intriguing and attractive. Human psychology is drawn to what it cannot easily understand or predict. This principle explains why people become obsessed with celebrities who rarely give interviews, why certain brands maintain their appeal by limiting availability, and why some individuals seem to effortlessly attract attention and opportunities while others struggle despite being more qualified or accomplished. Mystery isn't about being secretive or deceptive. It's about being selective with what you share, maintaining some privacy in your personal life, and occasionally surprising people with unexpected achievements or capabilities. When people can't easily categorize or predict you, you become more memorable and influential. Think about the most charismatic people you know. Chances are, they don't share every detail of their lives with everyone they meet. They might be warm and engaging in conversation, but they also maintain certain boundaries around their personal information. They let their actions speak louder than their words, and they often surprise people with capabilities or achievements that weren't obvious from their everyday demeanor. This quality is particularly powerful in professional settings. The colleague who quietly excels and occasionally delivers unexpected results is often more respected and promotable than the one who constantly talks about their projects and achievements. The consultant who speaks little but delivers significant value when they do speak commands higher fees than those who fill every silence with words. Cultivating mystery requires discipline in our hyper-connected world. It means resisting the urge to document every experience on social media. It means being comfortable with not always being the center of attention. It means allowing other people to wonder about your thoughts, your plans, and your capabilities rather than constantly explaining yourself. This doesn't mean becoming antisocial or boring. In fact, truly mysterious people are often excellent conversationalists because they focus more on learning about others than on sharing about themselves. They ask thoughtful questions, listen carefully to responses, and contribute meaningfully to discussions without dominating them. The practical application is straightforward. Share less, observe more, and let your results speak for themselves. Instead of announcing every project you're working on, Occasionally surprise people with completed achievements. Instead of posting every interesting thought you have, save some insights for face-to-face conversations where they can have more impact. When people ask about your personal life, work projects, or future plans, practice giving responses that are honest but not comprehensive. You can acknowledge the question without revealing everything. Things are going well. I'm working on some interesting projects. Or, I prefer to focus on today rather than worry about tomorrow. The goal isn't to be secretive for its own sake, but to recognize that some degree of privacy and unpredictability makes you more interesting and influential than complete transparency ever could. As we reach the end of our journey today, understand that this isn't about becoming cold or antisocial. It's about recognizing that your words, information, and attention are valuable resources that deserve strategic distribution rather than being freely given to anyone who asks. True power comes from what you choose not to reveal as much as what you share. Remember that every successful person has understood strategic silence. They knew when to speak and when to listen. They knew what to share and what to protect. They knew that mystery and privacy were assets, not obstacles. The path forward is clear. Speak less, observe more, and let your actions carry the weight that your words once tried to bear. Let others wonder about your thoughts and plans while you focus on steady progress that creates real success. Thank you for joining me today on Fluent English with Radio. Remember, staying quiet is not hiding, it's power. When you stop sharing everything, you stop giving your power away. That's how staying quiet makes you more powerful.